Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, today we're going to completely shift our mindset because, too often we look at student data and we just see this giant wall of numbers, a spreadsheet full of grades or some chart of averages. But today, we're going to transform those numbers into a narrative. We're going to uncover the actual story of student learning that's hiding right in front of us. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with going beyond just collecting data. Then, 2, finding those hidden patterns. 3, identifying root misconceptions. 4, collaborative inquiry. 5, psychological safety. And finally, 6, turning that evidence into action. Let's get right to it. Okay, let's dive into this. Collecting data does not improve learning. Analyzing data and acting on it does. I absolutely love this because it perfectly dismantles this massive assumption we have in education. We so often feel like giving an assessment and just gathering up the scores is the finish line. But it's not. It's literally just the starting line for the real work. The evidence has zero value until we actually sit down and interpret it. All right, Section 1, beyond just collecting data, or as I like to think of it, the missing step. Think about this for a second. Teachers make hundreds, honestly, sometimes thousands of micro-instructional decisions every single day. And the absolute best of those decisions, they are informed by carefully analyzed evidence, not just our assumptions or gut feelings. It all builds in this cycle. We start with planning, which is obviously anchored in specific educational standards like the TEKS and the ALPS. So we plan, and then we assess. But step 3 is where the magic really happens, analyzing the evidence. This is the absolutely crucial bridge between what we just taught and what we're going to teach next. And hey, here is a really important reminder. Not all evidence is numerical. When we say data, we don't just mean some multiple choice test score, right? Ground this in your own classroom reality for a second. Imagine flipping through a stack of quick exit tickets. Or picture a really rich student discussion you just listened in on, or a specific piece of student artwork. That is all data. Great educators examine multiple sources of evidence so they can really get the full picture. Moving on to Section 2, finding the hidden patterns. Scores versus actual insights. Now, this brilliantly illustrates where we elevate our practice, moving away from just looking at scores to pulling out game-changing insights. I mean, how many times have we asked, well, what was the class average on this quiz? But an average kind of hides the truth, doesn't it? Instead, we really need to be asking, what are the patterns? Who specifically needs enrichment? Who needs support? What instructional changes are literally needed tomorrow? This shifts our entire focus from an outdated, stagnant metric to a really empowering, actionable roadmap. Which brings us to Section 3, identifying root misconceptions, uncovering the why. So once we spot a pattern where students are struggling, we have to figure out the why. Now, a simple mistake is just an isolated error. Like, say, a student knows the whole process of addition, but they just accidentally write a 4 instead of a 5. We all do that. A root misconception, though, that is a flawed foundational understanding. For example, a student thinking 0.25 is larger than 0.5 simply because 25 is bigger than 5. You can't fix that by just telling a kid to go check your work. No way. You have to identify that specific crack in their foundation so you can design the exact right instructional response.
All right, Section 4, collaborative inquiry through PLCs, thinking together.
The really good news here, you absolutely shouldn't be trying to figure out these root misconceptions all by yourself. We do this best in our professional learning communities by asking 4 foundational questions. What do we actually want students to learn? How will we know if they learned it? What will we do if they didn't? And what will we do if they already know it? Notice the language we're using here. This is all about professional, shared inquiry. It is never about judgment, and it is certainly never about blame. It's really just about solving a giant puzzle together. Section 5, psychological safety with data, putting culture over mechanics. To actually collaborate effectively, we have to address the very real emotional weight of being a teacher. Looking at your own students' data with your peers, well, that can feel incredibly vulnerable. It can totally feel like you're putting your own personal worth right there on the table. But true psychological safety means we separate the data from our self-worth. In a truly safe environment, the data evaluates the learning, not the teacher. We assume positive intentions from our colleagues, and we focus purely on solutions. We're just learning together so we can serve our students better. Finally, Section 6, turning evidence into action using structured protocols.
Okay, so once we have that safe collaborative space established, it's time to turn all this wonderful evidence and collaborative thinking into concrete action. And for sure, the best way to do that is through a data-driven dialogue protocol. This cycle moves from observe to interpret to question to plan and finally to monitor. Notice what it forces us to do, right? It literally forces us to sit in that observe stage, just stating the plain facts of the evidence before we jump to any conclusions or rush to make a new lesson plan. By structuring our conversations exactly like this, we keep our own biases in check and make absolutely sure our instructional next steps are truly grounded in what the students actually showed us.
Which leaves us with this final, absolutely crucial question. How will you move from just describing what you see in student work to truly understanding why students are struggling? I really want you to take this question back to your classroom, back to your PLC, and just let it spark a complete transformation in how you view your assessments. Don't just collect the numbers. Uncover the real story, find the why, and use it to completely change the trajectory of your students' learning.